All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Kenny Turner. Thank you guys for joining us today. My name is Kenny Turner with the Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship, Nifty.com, or Nifty for short. We thank you for joining us here today. We have the privilege of being here today with a phenomenal guest speaker who we will introduce in just a second. But this couldn't have happened without the partnership of El Camino College. So with that, I'm going to hand this over to Professor Yoon, who's going to do a little intro and hello to get us started today. Professor Yoon, you can pass it back to me and I will introduce our speaker right after you. But with that, I hand it over to you and thank you for allowing us to partner with you in the El Camino College community on this awesome workshop today. So I hand it over to you, Professor Yoon.
Thanks, Kenny, and thank you for everybody for coming. This is our fourth speaker series. We've been having one each semester, and it gets bigger and bigger and more interesting every semester. And I'm just really appreciative of our partnership with Nifty, and also I want to speak a little bit about the entrepreneurship program here at ECC for some of you who are coming in from a different class outside of entrepreneurship. We basically have a small business entrepreneurship class, as well as a venture development class. And what we're doing here in this Launch and Grow Your Business series is to provide you some of the tools and skills that you might not be getting from the classroom. So in the classroom, we teach about business plans, we develop marketing plans and whatnot, but we don't always go into things that are, that require an expert to tell us about, say, SEO, search engine optimization, or social media marketing. And this is the opportunity here where we have Laurel to speak to us today, and we're really excited about that. So for those of you who are exploring different avenues in terms of majors or looking for classes that may expand kind of your interest in startups or developing your own business, look at the small business entrepreneurship course, and also look out for the ECCentrepreneur.com website, because we have many of these events online, as well as resources that you can tap into. So with that, we're excited today. We have a record attendance in terms of record registration, I should say, for this event today. So I'll hand it back to Kenny, and my colleague Melissa Somdersurf will close us at the end of this workshop.
All right, thank you, Professor Yoon. Can we give some love to El Camino College, Professor Yoon, Professor Melissa, who will be joining us a little bit later. Again, and Professor Yoon, this is workshop number 6 workshop number 7. We did 4 in the fall, 2 in the spring of last year. Laurel, you have 7 and 8, so it's amazing, and I can't believe it. We've done so much together already. So with that, I definitely want to say I also have a colleague who you see on screen here. Her name is Jordan Jackson. She is a Nifty alumnus, but she's also an El Camino College alum as well. So she is now in the state of Georgia, finishing her 4-year degree at an awesome university. So you're going to see Jordan in the chat. She's going to be helping me help you to stay engaged, to ask questions, to field any questions that you may have, so our guest speaker can answer them as best as possible. So remember to use that Q&A feature that's right there with you in this webinar mode that we are on. You can also leave some comments and questions in the chat as well. So thank you again for joining us. Just a quick note about our guest speaker who will be giving our workshop today, Laurel Mintz. Laurel, you know what, Laurel? I didn't know this. You have a JD MBA from Rutgers University. I'm from New York City, so I know Rutgers well. Shout out New Jersey. If anybody's been there, you got to go if you haven't been. Rutgers is an awesome university. Laurel's background has uniquely prepared her to run a successful agency called Elevate My Brand. Inspired by the innovative consulting work she executed early in her career with prestigious brands like Public House Restaurant Group, Bassett Furniture, and Julie Hewitt Cosmetics, Laurel knew she wanted to play bigger. And over a decade later, Laurel has created an agency, family serving both startups and blue chip global brands like Facebook, Verizon Digital Media Services, Paw Patrol. Come on, I love Paw Patrol. Zendesk. Laurel's favorite saying is, I'm gonna let you say that, Laura, because I don't want to mess it up. But
It's
FIOGID.
FIOGID. Figure it out, get it done. That's why you're all here today, right?
There you go. There you go. And the list goes on and on with Laurel's accomplishment, and to date, just amazing things you've done, Laurel. So with that, I don't want to get in the way. I want you to take as much time as we can, use up as much of this time as you can to drop some nuggets on us. So with that, Laurel, I just let you know I will be here just supporting you. May pull us over to ask some questions in between. But other than that, I will pass this mic over to you. Can we give some love in the chat for Laurel Mintz, who is joining us today from the great city of Los Angeles?
Amazing. Thank you so much, Kenny. And thank you to everyone showing up. This is about you. This is not about me. And you'll see that I will go fully rogue from my speaker deck to make sure that you get what you need today. I am the kind of speaker that I don't want to talk at you. I want to talk with you. So with that in mind, ask the questions in the chat, ask the questions in Q&A. I get paid a lot of money all around the world to do these kinds of talks. So I want to make sure that you're getting your specific questions answered. There's no question too big or too small. This is what's going to set you up for success long-term, and also just leaning into the uncomfortable and saying, like, you know what? The truth is I need to know more about X, or I have absolutely no idea about Y. Can you please help us understand so that we can better set ourselves up for success? So this is a totally safe space. And the truth is, and I tell this to all the nifty kids when I speak, everybody's faking it. Everybody, I don't care how many letters you have after your name. I don't care how big up you are in the C-suite executive world. Everybody's just trying to figure it out one day at a time. So don't let anyone intimidate you. You got this, and that's why you showed up today. But that said, I'm going to give you some extra little nuggets and tidbits and tools and things, hopefully to help you really, get your mojo going as it relates to sales and marketing. So what I want to ask from all of you is, let's just start with a conversation. I've got a big presentation deck. As Kenny knows, I always like to kind of blow it up. The fewer slides I get to, the better, because that means that I'm actually being impactful and answering your specific questions. So what questions do you have around sales and marketing? Do you guys know the difference between sales and marketing? What are the stumbling blocks that you have that are making you not go after that job, or not go after that course, or not go after whatever it is that you want to do in your life? Maybe start your first company. Please ask those questions out. I want to start us off with a conversation, right? So let's chat. So I've got one question in, but I want more. Laura Martinelli, first of all, great initials. I just have to say that, LM, loving it. Laura Martinelli asks, would love to know how best to promote yourself online as a videographer, filmmaker, and a creative in general. That's a great question. Promotion is a really big conversation. So what I want you to think about in terms of marketing is that it is like an umbrella under which all of these things lie. Content, social media, research and development, advertising, branding, all of those pieces are under the marketing umbrella. And at the end of the day, the handle of that umbrella should be sales, visibility, awareness, whatever that key performance indicator of success is. So for you to say the best way to promote yourself online is a really, really big question. My question back to you would be, what are you doing right now? What has worked for you in the past, and what are you tracking to understand if those channels are successful for you? So there's all these different channels, right? Content marketing, advertising, social media, social advertising, organic content, paid content, partnerships, sponsorships, influencer marketing. There's so many different ways to promote your brand. So what you'll hear from me say time and time again in this conversation is, what are you trying right now? How are you measuring success? And what does that test look like? So it's got to be a metrics conversation. It can't be an I think, I feel. And the truth is that there are so many agencies out there. There are so many companies out there that are led by their gut, which I do believe in gut, but I believe in ensuring that your gut is backed up by data. We call it, our agency, being center brain, inspired by creative, but truly driven by data. So what are you tracking right now in what channels to lead you to success? So it's not a perfect answer, but we're going to get into a bit more of that in a little bit. What other questions? I have one question. I mean, I'm going to just sign off now. If I only have one question, then what am I doing here? What do you guys need? You know everything about marketing and sales? Come on. What other questions do we have about sales and marketing?
Come on, open call. Come on, let's get some
Come
more
on.
questions in the chat.
If you aren't excited and energized and pumped to be here right now, what are you doing here? Come on. This is about potentially building your brand. I might give you a nugget of wisdom that's going to help you launch your entrepreneurial career today. If I'm lucky, I can have a little bit of impact on what you do next. Any Q&A features? Yes.
Okay.
What is marketing for me and what is sales for me? Awesome. What is the beginning of your day? Okay, perfect. Now we're talking. Now this is a conversation. And I mean, that's kind of tip 101. Marketing is a conversation, right? Marketing cannot be it can't be a one-way street, right? It is a two-way street. That's one of the reasons social is called social media. It has to be an engaged conversation. So Jocelyn asks, what does marketing mean for you? So to me, marketing is that umbrella. It's the entire universe of how you communicate to your audience and how they communicate back to you. Again, that cyclical conversation, but it includes a volume of different things as I've kind of just listed out under that umbrella. But marketing is, for me, it's really truly about the relationship. I think people confuse sales and marketing. Sales is a one-to-one. Sales is that end opportunity, what we call bottom of funnel, right? That market, that sales moment, that purchase decision, right? And marketing, as Kenny says, it's all about the relationship. How are you building those networks? You all know, since you're young, you're very digital, that when the pandemic hit, everything went online. What that means is that it has been taking up to 16 plus touch points before someone knows, likes, and trusts your brand, which means the expectation that you're going to put one post up and it's going to convert into a sale is really unrealistic. What you really need to be thinking about is holistically how to build out a marketing and sales funnel so you can create multiple touch points so that people can begin to know, like, and trust your brand. Again, it's a relationship. I always liken marketing to dating, let's say, for example, right? Either liken it to dating or to traveling. So let's take the dating one, since you're all young and very, I'm sure, excited in that world and on all the apps and everything. So if you just texted someone one time, what is the likelihood that you're going to end up with that person? Probably slim to none, right? But if you have all these amazing text conversations, maybe you have a few phone calls, you go out for coffee, then a couple of cocktails, then you have lunches out, then a few dinners, then they meet your parents, then they meet your parents. And, it really has to be thoughtful and relationship driven. And marketing is the same thing. And actually, I think that's probably one reason that I feel like I've been so successful in this world is that I truly appreciate people. I love their stories and I understand and can feel, I'm very empathetic. So I can feel the pain points as it relates to their business. And that really translates for me in marketing. But again, it's all about the relationship. We have an anonymous attendee ask the question, what did the beginning of your journey look like? And how did you figure out what path to take? Ooh, this is a long story, but I'll try and be as succinct as possible. And then I'll get to the other questions. Thank you for that. So when you're 5 years old and someone asks you what you want to be when you grow up, what did you guys want to be when you grew up? A doctor, a fireman, a ballerina, all the things. I wanted to be a lawyer. That was what I would say. A pilot, Chris says, yep. I wanted to be a lawyer. And everyone was like, this 5-year-old kid wants to be a lawyer. Watch out for her. Oh my God, who wants to be a lawyer at 5 years old? Jordan says she wants to be an anesthesiologist. Rory wanted to be a paramedic. Yeah, these are lofty goals. Being a lawyer, not really usually something a 5-year-old is interested in doing, but I went to UCSB undergrad. I graduated early. I had went in with a major declared in law and society. And because I went and declared, I was able to double minor in art history and philosophy, which is really, really cool. I ended up going to law school at Rutgers, as Kenny mentioned. And after my first year, I decided that being a lawyer was not for me. I actually hated it. I really didn't enjoy the people. I thought if I had to spend the rest of my life with these people, spending 80 hours a week doing this job, I might just hurt myself. So I was like, I'm done here. I tried all the internships and again, none of them really stuck. So I went to the dean and I said, I'm done. I'm done wasting my time and money. I just don't think that this is for me. And the dean was like, well, what is it about that that's not a good fit for you? And I said, it's combative. It just feels like everyone is fighting. Like if I take a piece of the pie, someone else can't have any pie. That's not my vibe. My vibe is the more the merrier. Let's figure out how to collaborate and figure out problem solving solutions, and move forward and be collaborative and team building and problem solving. And she said, why don't you try the MBA program? I really think that that's much more aligned with what you should be doing in your life. And she was 100% right. But of course, I'm from LA. I have Jewish parents. And when you have Jewish parents, you are either a doctor or a lawyer or maybe an engineer. That's kind of like it. So I still took the bar, passed it, practiced for a short while. My dad got sick. He's healthy now. So if everyone could knock on a little bit of wood for me, I'd appreciate it. But I had to step in and run his company as interim CEO at 26 years old. Do you think I had any clue what I was doing at 26 years old as a CEO of a major company? I had no clue, none. And I remember I would sit in my car outside of the store, and I would just cry. I would sit white, when you white knuckled on the steering wheel and just this ugly cry, because I was like, what am I doing? This is not my path in life. I don't know why I'm here. It was so hard. And then I would wipe everything off and I would button up and I would get myself together and I would go and I'd be like, all right, what's the numbers? What are we doing today? What is everyone, and totally fake it, right? Luckily, as I mentioned, my dad survived and he was able to step back in. And when he did that, I went back after all of those big 6-figure law firm jobs that truly should have made me deliriously happy. And to be honest, it made my mother deliriously happy, but it was clearly not my path. When you have a visceral reaction in your body that is just telling you that it's just not your path anymore, that is exactly what happened to me when I was going after those gigs. And so I was like, all right, I've got to listen to my intuition. And that's another really important tip for all of you, as you take on your entrepreneurial paths and futures. Gut instinct is almost never wrong, especially women, not to call out the men, but especially women. We have a very strong intuition. And I will tell you, my intuition is almost never wrong. And so I followed my gut and I said no to those big law firm job opportunities. And I started schmoozing with other entrepreneurs. One in particular was a celebrity makeup artist. You probably would know her name if I said it, so I'm not going to say it. And she wanted to create her first cosmetic line and she needed to raise $5 million to do that. And so I told her, oh, well, we can do that. I can write the business plan and marketing model. We'll totally get you funded. No big deal. Meanwhile, I'm sweating, that flop sweat feeling when you're faking it, but nobody else can see it. And you're like, ugh. She had no idea. The next thing I knew, I was hired. I think she spent maybe $5,000 on me to write this business plan and marketing model. She got funded and I had the start of my company. And that's how I started Elevate My Brand. I was like, I got this. I know this universe now. I understand. This was back when digital had just started. So this was 15 years ago. My agency's 13 and a half years old. God, thank God I live in LA and hopefully I don't look it, right? It's crazy. You blink and that time just flies. But to Kenny's point earlier, I did the consulting thing with smaller companies for about a year. And I woke up one day and I was like, oh, this is my career. I don't have to take the same path that everyone else that I knew of in law school took. I don't have to take the same path that my parents want me to take. I can forge my own path and I am actually already doing it. And that's actually officially when I started Elevate My Brand, started hiring, building out my own company. And now it's been 13 years and over 250 brands later. And that's my startup story. Totally self-funded. The other thing I'll add before I answer more questions is I know that you guys are in the venture world as well. This is a startup and entrepreneurial and venture conversation. And on the agency side, we do a lot of work in the PE and VC world on the marketing side and their portfolio companies. And one day on a call in November of last year, one of the guys asked me to stay on. I said, sure, David, what's up? And he goes, Laurel, why aren't you raising a fund? You are mission driven. My agency is 100% diverse, for those of you that didn't know that. I have deal flow all day long because all we're looking at are companies that are looking to grow and expand and spend their money on marketing. You have this this USP because you understand how to use the technology that you have to vet and make these companies winners. You should go raise a fund. And so I'm actually really excited to announce that in March of this year, I just launched my very first venture fund. We're raising $40 million currently. It's called Fabric. We're all about weaving together diverse founders with funding, mostly in CPG, which is the world that I know, because less than 2% of women are GPs in venture, and less than 1% of all venture funding goes to diverse candidates. And it's time that changes. So instead of talking about it and giving lip service, I'm standing up and I'm doing something about it. And you know what? I'm terrified. I'll be totally transparent with you. I am super scared. This is not a world I know ish, and I know it. I know enough to be dangerous, but I'm doing it anyways.
I'm gonna, you know what, that was like amazing actually, and congratulations.
Thank
And
you.
before we go into your PowerPoint, can you elaborate a little bit more on venture funding and what that means? And then we'd love to see, and then we'll answer questions throughout the presentations for sure, leave some time at the end too. We can continue to have the convo, but you said something there that, you know, for those that don't know what that is, and you know, if you could say a little bit about that, and maybe how that can impact even someone who's just thinking about starting a business, what that might mean for them.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different ways to start a company. You can bootstrap it, right? Which means you're basically putting in your own money, self-funding, self-starting. Or you can go after different types of capital, right? You can go to a bank if you have good credit. Sometimes they'll give you a line of credit. For most diverse candidates that don't own property or whatever, that is a very, very challenging approach. And most banks say no to people that, like, it's so funny, as you'll see in the world as you get older and you start buying houses and whatever, being, you know, adulting, which frankly is overrated, let me tell you, that it's so hard to get money when you need it, and it's really easy to get money when you don't need it. So that's another tip. Like, if you decide to go to start a company and go fundraise, pretend like you don't need the money. That's like a great tip, because you want to be hungry, but you don't want to be thirsty, if that makes sense. There's a difference, right? So in terms of venture funding, it's just one of the areas of potentially funding a startup business. You can go to angels. Angels are people that have a lot of money, who are really like your angels, right? They're happy to write you a 5, 10, 15, 20, $100,000 check, sometimes more, but they're one person, right? Then you've got angel syndicates, or groups of angels that put their money into a pool, and that pool invests in other companies. And then you've got venture companies like what I'm building, right? So those tend to be anywhere from 10 to like $500 million, 10 million to $500 million. And those companies basically aggregate high net worth individuals who come in at a certain check size. So like our minimum check size is $250,000. We have a lot of people coming in at a bigger number than that, some coming in a little bit less, but you know, it's a negotiation. And you pool this wealth into the fund. And then you distribute that to the kinds of companies in what is called your thesis, which means the kinds of companies that you invest in, right? So our thesis is what's called ESG. So it's socially driven, social change, right? Fun, mission driven. And we are focused on CPG, consumer packaged goods, which is the world that I know, as you've heard on the agency side. So it's really pooling this money into a bigger pool. It helps to kind of hedge your bet in terms of building wealth. Because let's just say you have 10 companies, let's just say you have 10 companies that you invest in on as a venture fund. 8 of those are going to go belly up. 1 of those is going to get acquired, and it'll be a nice liquidity event. And 1 of those will be a Google, right? Or something along those lines. One of those 10 companies will carry the entire fund and give back your investors their investment. So it's a high risk, high reward industry. And then within the venture world, there's different levels of types of investment like that you can go into. So there's pre-seed, which is someone comes to you, they have a really great idea, and you really believe in them as a founder, or maybe they've got a track record as a founder, or they've had a successful exit already, and you give them money to seed their company, really literally like planting seeds to grow their company. That's pre-seed. Then you've got seed, which is a little bit later stage. So they may have proof of concept. They may have their product in market already. They're a little bit further along, which means the valuation, how much their company is worth, will also be worth a little bit more, which means you want to put more money into that fund or into that company because you'll own more that way. So it's all based on the value of the company, how much your money carries in terms of your investment. Excuse me. And then you've got private equity, which are like the really, really big fish. And those are the ones that come in and like buy up an entire company and the management team because they're looking to take them public or do something that's on a much, much broader national or global scale. So those are kind of like the different pieces, but I want to make sure I'm going to get back to the marketing and sales questions, but any questions about the venture world, as I know it can be really amorphous. The truth is you can Google anything. I Google something like at least once or twice a day because I'm like, oh, an investor just asked me a question and I have no idea how to answer that, but I'm going to figure it out, you know? So any questions about venture? I know it's also part of your world.
There's one question in the Q&A, and it's what is your about ventures? Yes.
What is your biggest obstacle in starting your business venture? That's not about. That's about the agency side. That's not really about the. Is that about the venture, Jillian? Is that about starting the venture fund, or is that about the marketing agency? Can you elaborate, please? No. Okay. Any other questions around the venture world? There's a lot. There's a lot of jargon. There's a lot of, we call them pale, male, and stale, right? That's what is like 99% of the venture and PE world. And we're really trying to change that. We're trying to create more equity and more parity in a world that doesn't look like what we look like here. So we're trying to change that. All right, back to marketing. Okay, questions. Okay, answered that one. Beginning of the journey, answered that one. What's more important, strong visibility of a product or closing the deal? This is an anonymous attendee. So closing the deal is an open-ended question. Are you talking about a one-to-one sale? Or are you talking about a B2B play here? Like, what is the deal in terms of what you're talking about? You can add that in the chat if you want to talk more about it, but I would argue creating strong visibility and awareness around a product is what helps you convert sales, right? It is the foundation of that funnel that I talked about a little earlier that helps you get to that conversion. So you kind of can't have one without the other. And again, this is why we're having these conversations, because I think people think it's one versus the other, or one comes first, or I can have the sales first, but marketing is the foundation to all sales, right? Where should I start with the funnel process? Great question, Chris. So funnel looks like this, right? It's an inverted triangle. What we're talking about, what we do as an agency, is what are called top of funnel visibility and awareness tools. So that is social media, content marketing, advertising, all of the ways to get new eyeballs on the brand. So if you want to start developing your funnel, create a triangle literally on a piece of paper and create 16 lines back up through that funnel and figure out if you have developed enough touch points to actually push people down through that funnel. Now we can talk about the sales piece of it, because at the end of that marketing funnel is sales. And let's just say you want to convert $1 million in sales. What we know is that at each level of those touch points, your audience converts at a 1% to 2% rate. So it then kind of becomes like a math problem, right? So if you have 16 touch points and you want to make $1 million at the bottom of those touch points, you work backwards 16 times up that funnel at a 1% to 2% conversion rate. Now you can see that it's like, I'm not a math person, but that's like 100 million eyeballs, right? Or maybe 1 billion eyeballs that needs to be on the top of that funnel in order to push down to that $1 million mark, right? Or that $10 million mark, whatever that ends up being. Now, this is a generic conversation. Every brand is different. Every industry is different, but that's why tracking each step along the way is so incredibly important. I'll give you a real life example. So for us, our top of funnel is content. We do a ton of blogs because, does anyone know the answer to this? Other than Google, what is the second largest search engine in the world? Who knows? What's the second largest search engine? Are y'all with me? Bing, says Chris. No. What else? Nope. Yahoo. Jordan says Yahoo. Brianna says Yahoo. Any other guesses? Siri, Amazon. Interesting. No, it's actually YouTube. YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world. So if you're trying to create more visibility and awareness at the top of that funnel, but you don't have that money, honey, right? That's always the challenge. content marketing is a really important part of this conversation, right? So if you're creating video blogs, you're putting it on YouTube, making sure all your metadata is input properly there, and then you're sharing that on your website, translating it into written content for Google, keyword focusing it, then you're already tapping into the 2 largest search engines in the world, and that's pre-ad spend. So that is just one example of top of funnel awareness, visibility, activity as it relates to organic content. And you'll hear me say this as we go through these conversations. There's 2 approaches: organic and paid, organic and paid, organic and paid. It's always going to be one or the other. They have to work simultaneously. If you don't have the money to spend on paid, you've got to crush it on organic, right? So that's blogs and blogs, that's social media, etc. So I believe that was the answer to that question. Which is more important, strong visibility product, we answered that. What marketing strategies and tactics have you used in the past? All of them. Literally all of them. Everyone's like, what should I use? And I'm like, well, what have you tried and what are you tracking? Again, I'm going to say this time and time and time again. Find 2 or 3 things that you want to try and then try them, track the metrics on it. For example, like the Facebook, Instagram family, they have really great native data tracking, right? So you can see month over month what organic content is delivering the most in terms of engagement, likes, whatever, for your particular audience. So I'll use it as a real life example. Let's just say you're starting a brand new brand. Put up 30 days of organic content and just play with it, right? So it could be really poppy on this week. It could be really like muted colors for this week. It could be more copy heavy on this week or more people focused. And try that for 30 days or even 2 weeks. Like, it doesn't have to be a whole 30 days. Like the great thing about digital is that it is infinitely trackable, right? And so if you're looking at the backend data from Facebook, Instagram, this is the Instagram, it'll tell you like, all right, these are the 3 most engaged posts, right? And they happen to be really poppy colors, pictures of people, and animals. So then you now know that that's what you have to create more content around, because that's what your audience literally told you with their finger that they are interested in seeing from your brand. And then when you have that test, right, you can use that same conversation to boost those same posts or to use those posts in advertising, because you know that that's what's going to most likely deliver for your audience. When you're starting out with a brand new baby brand, everything is a hypothesis. And you have to approach it like the scientific method, right? A/B test, making sure that you're iterating quickly and watching your friggin' metrics. I cannot say this enough. Your numbers do not lie. Don't guess. Like, if you can't come to me and say, I know this is how much traffic I have to my website, this is how many are converting on each page, this is how big my database is and what my open rates look like, this is what my engagement rates look like on all my social channels, then you're not following the numbers. And if you're not following the numbers, you're missing out. I mean, again, I'm not a numbers person. I'm a creative. Well, I'm center brain. I'm inspired by creative and I'm driven by data, because we have to be in this day and age. You've got to do both. That's how you're going to drive top line revenue for your business. Okay, I'm going to keep going. I did that one. Biggest obstacles in starting my business. Did I have to multitask anything else during your life? Interesting. My biggest obstacle has always been myself, if I'm being totally honest, right? We get in our own heads. We have this like, oh, I'm not good enough. I can't do that. Or I don't have enough money, or I'm not smart enough, or someone else has done it so much better than me. I just could never do that, right? I would say that you are your only restriction. And to that end, I think meditation is really helpful. I think gratitude journaling is really helpful for all of that. And mentorship, right? Finding people who you believe have built what you want to build, stronger, faster, better than you. Almost everyone at the age that you're at will be happy to do an informational interview with you. And that's how you build kind of a board of advisors in a community that you want to be a part of. So I would say, don't be your own obstacle, or be aware if you are being your own obstacle, and go out and ask for help. I think so many times entrepreneurs, they have this like lone wolf syndrome where they feel like they've got to do it all on their own, and they've got to be so tough, and they've got to work 18-hour days, and they've, that's the hustle. And the truth is that may have been romanticized historically. but I get 8 hours of sleep at almost every single night. I work out 6 days a week. I make time to meditate. I take time off. I make sure that my cup is full, because otherwise I'm going to snap at my employees. I'm going to be pissy with the client. Something's just not going to go right energetically if I am not really centered as a human being. So I would say my biggest obstacle, even to this day, is my own self. And that's your job to figure out your path to get you out of your own way so you can be as successful as humanly possible. You're your own limitation. All the rest of this is just the story that you're telling yourself, truly. Did I have to multitask anything else during your life? I still multitask. I am a little probably insane. And because I have the law degree, I also have a separate entity that's a law firm. So as I was building the brand, the marketing agency and doing branding work, I would then also pitch the client and say, hey, by the way, I can also do all the IP protection behind this. And I would make money doing that so I could fund the agency, because they weren't always ready to like really fully invest in marketing. So I think you always have to figure out how to forge your own path and what your unique skill set is, and then lean into it, really. And that's what I did. And look, I am very, very lucky, and I do not take it lightly that I was able to get the kind of education that I got. But I will tell you, I paid off those student loans myself, and it was $140,000. It's not cheap, right? That is a scary number, but it is possible. So that's your own, your own obstacles, honestly. But there's so much like meditation, breath work, yoga, therapy. I'm doing something really cool right now that I actually haven't shared with anyone. That is high performance hypnotherapy. I know, could I be more LA? I probably couldn't be more LA with that one, but yeah.
Well, Laura, we have Nicole has an interesting question. Actually, I'm wondering because the next workshop, we're going to be diving in deeper on social media, but if you don't have social media, Nicole asked, can you still be successful compared to old school methods like word of mouth, billboards, newspaper ads, etc.?
Yeah, you can, but it's going to take you longer. So this is where I use the travel metaphor, right? So if you are trying to get from LA to New York and you're only using like specific roads, one street, one gas station, it's going to take you a really, really long time to get from LA to New York. But if you diversify and you can stay at a bunch of different hotels and you go to a bunch of different restaurants and you're not as linear and you're thinking about it, the likelihood that you're going to get there is like 10 times what it would if you were being really only focused in one or two like brands, right? Same thing with marketing. Social media is there to create visibility and awareness in a very, very noisy environment. It's only one of the touch points, but it is a very significant touch point because it allows you to talk to someone who has opted into your content or to grab an audience that is demographically and psychographically aligned with whatever your offering is, right? So I would say it is one of, I always call it a necessary evil. The truth is, do I wish I didn't have to do social? Probably. I mean, I do it. I have a pretty decent following on all of my channels, and I have so many of them, but it's a real pain in the, you know what? It really is very time consuming. And I would argue, and there's, no long-term studies that show this, but there's a lot of toxicity that happens on social media. There's a lot of that being your own worst enemy because you see these perfect worlds of all these people that are total bullshit, right? Sorry. So I would say yes, if you don't have social media, you can still be successful, but it really, really significantly helps you. And the other thing I would add, Nicole, is how would you track word of mouth or billboards, right? Social media, specifically as one channel, is infinitely trackable, whereas a billboard, you can't really tell if someone saw that and converted from that particular billboard. You could ask them and they could say, oh yeah, I think I saw you or whatever, or maybe I read that article in the newspaper or whatever. It's a lot harder to track that way. So whenever I talk to more old school heads who are at the top of the food chain and they don't understand social or digital, I have a very similar conversation. They're like, well, I don't know why I'm not putting ads in a magazine. And I'm like, well, how are you tracking that conversion? And they're like, well, I don't know. It's about however big the readership is. I'm like, yeah, but that's a big generic number. That has nothing to do with how many eyeballs are on your particular ad on that particular date in that particular magazine that month. Whereas if I put out a post and I put out an ad, I can tell you exactly who saw it, where they're from, what their demographics and psychographics look like, and then I can even retarget them and create lookalike audiences so that I can serve them your next ad or serve them your next product. So you can, I don't know why you would, is the really long and short of it, Nicole. That's a great question, though.
That was a phenomenal question. And, we got also this topic of SEO. You mentioned tracking a lot. And it's something that I think the average person trying to put their, market their business online, whether they have an online business or whether they have a website or whether they have, a page or whatever it might be to bring visibility. I love your explanation of top of the funnel. I love the 16 touch points. Where would you say like SEO and, there's those buzzwords of SEO, AdWords, et cetera. And I've heard you in another workshop say, a lot of people look for AdWords. You also mentioned how YouTube could be a phenomenal tool. Can you speak to a little bit about that? Like, how do you get visibility once you're online? How do you use those tools to even do that? Because those are foreign terms for me when I first heard them. So I know for a lot of people on our call today, they probably like, how do I even engage that?
Yeah, so I put in the chat, semrush.com. It's a platform that we use. We pay a lot of money for our version of it because it's an agency version. But we put all of our clients through this program because it shows us and it helps us create baseline numbers. Again, like there's the creative part of marketing, which is super fun and playful and pretty, but there's the data side, which has to marry together, right? So what we always do with new brands, and you can do this with any company in the world, is you go to semrush.com and they have a free version of this tool. So you put in their URL and it will give you a bunch of different information, like how much traffic is coming to their site, what keywords they're being found for, a lot of different data points that help you understand, what the authority of that website is. And ultimately, that's what SEO is helping you try to do, is to create a larger authority. So Google in its infinite wisdom sees you as the leader in whatever that keyword space is, or that whatever that brand space is, and ranks you higher in search. And all that means is that me as a consumer, when I'm typing into Google, Google gives me exactly what I want when I want it instantly, right? That's Google's job. So you as the brand side or on the website side, our job on the marketing side is to make sure that that site is, first of all, functionally set up properly. So that's what a platform like SEMrush will help us do, is to see, first of all, are there any technical obstacles that are making you not be findable? Because what oftentimes happens is you're like, well, I'm doing all this social, I'm doing all this content, and I'm doing all the things, and it's still not doing anything. And then I'm like, well, what is your site set up? Like, is your site set up properly? It's like the foundation of a house, right? If you're built on sand, you start leveling up, you start putting layers on top of the house is going to tilt and it's going to eventually fall down because it's not built on a strong foundation. So first and foremost, you need to make sure that the foundation is strong. And that's all about making sure that the site is built properly and is healthy. So you don't have bad backlinks. You don't have toxicity coming in from click farms that are from overseas. Your links are really strong. There's a number of different ways, to make sure that your site is healthy, that your tags are properly, your metadata is really great and tightened up on all of your pages. There's no duplicative content. There's no content that's too long in titles. I mean, there's a lot of work that goes into making sure that a site is healthy. So that is SEO 101. That's the foundational piece. And then once the foundation is built, then you can start building blocks on top of that, which is building new pages, building content, pushing ads there, etc. Does that make sense? As I choke myself. Excuse me.
Yeah, a lot of sense. And never heard of that tool before. So thank you for sharing that. You're getting a lot of love in the chat. For Nicole mentioned, going from New York to LA in a jet rather than a car. Thank you, Nicole.
Yes.
Having lived in both places. Having lived in both places, I'm like, yeah, that's right. That's right. I'd much rather fly than drive there. But
exactly. It's about getting there faster. When we pitch new clients, we always say that if we do our job right, it closes the time frame from first point of contact to close of business. Whatever that close of business is for you, whether it's hiring you for a service or buying a product, it doesn't matter. Creating these touch points and doing this in a really intentional way just shortens that time frame to make you more profitable. That's it. So you can do it. You don't have to. I'm not pushing. I don't force anyone.
No, this is invaluable too. Like what? Like for some of our entrepreneurs or budding entrepreneurs on call with us, maybe they're just now getting engaged online. what's some of the pitfalls that you've noticed with clients or, getting visibility online? What, to your point, you do all the work and still nothing happens. I think you outlined some things already, but like, are there some common mistakes that you've noticed? Like, I think people try so many different things, like from email marketing to, tracking, clients, and maybe they're not using the proper tracking. And I know I say this because your tracking comment stands out because I've seen some of the tools you've given us as an organization to help us stay managed to manage our tracking on social media and the upticks we've seen. So can you say a little bit more about that? I might have asked like a couple questions in there, but
you did. So start with the first one. Pare it down.
Yeah. So the first one is like, I'm new to this getting online thing, and what's and you did say organic versus paid, but what are some pitfalls, I should say, from preventing people from getting online successfully?
Pitfalls. Not just doing it. Like, getting online is so easy nowadays. Honestly, I am very lucky. I married my web developer. He's actually a really talented engineer, and he builds platforms like Netflix and Hulu. So like, he did my little piddly site, and I was like so lucky. We started dating, and I was like, well, if it doesn't work out, then maybe at least I'll get a great website out of it. And I got a whole heck of a lot more than I bargained for. And 10 years later, we're really, really happy. So I happen to have a really great tool in my tool belt, who takes my calls still when it comes to the technical pieces. But I mean, there are GoDaddy, you could build on GoDaddy, you could build on WordPress, you could build on Shopify if you need an e-commerce integration. Today, there's no better time to get online and build a site, even if you know nothing about it, than right now, because it is like drag and drop. I mean, it could not be easier. Now, I would argue you still want to talk to an expert and maybe have them do the build side, or at least work with them to help polish the brand and things like that, because you want to put your best foot forward. Or just do it and figure out what you like and what you're not good at, and then hire for those other things. But there's no excuse to not be online right now in a meaningful way. There just isn't. Like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when I started my company, it was really, really hard and really confusing. There's no reason people can't do it themselves, or hire a team. I don't like hiring overseas. I really like hiring here, because I just think the time difference becomes really challenging. But there's a lot of really inexpensive options. Fiverr is a great tool for people who are looking, fiverr.com, for people looking for the cheap and quick option. It's not going to be pretty. It's like the trifecta, right? You get good, cheap, and fast. Pick two. It's up to you how you want to build it, but there's no excuse not to go online. That was question one. There was like 3 others.
Well, that was, I mean, you might have answered a few of them all in one there. So, so awesome. And I know you had like, a PowerPoint with some key things there.
I do. Should we actually go to the PowerPoint? I told you guys I go rogue. Sure. I really hate I actually hate PowerPoint.
Well, we did the reverse probably. So we answer questions first, and now we can actually we get some definitions of some key things. I know we won't have time to go through all of it. There is a part 2 plug. We're going to be back next week. We're going to put a little more focus on social media next week. But this is kind of getting some general things on, how to get connected online and market my business. So please feel free to share some of those nuggets from that you have prepared, and we'll generate some more questions.
I much prefer conversations. Like, you all are asking such great such great questions, because these are the things that you can't get from a PowerPoint. Like, you can get little tidbits, but unless you're talking to someone who has the years and years of experience that I have, it's just generic, right? So I want to make sure that even as I go into this PowerPoint, please ask questions. I'll keep my chat up, and I'll keep my QA up. We did have one final question in the QA, which is, do you think that there is a significant difference between selling and marketing? I think I answered that question. Really, marketing is the beginning phases of building that relationship. Sale is that one-to-one, right? And I believe I have a graphic in the slide that speaks to that. So I hope I answered that question. Any other questions? Oh yes, I have one more. Keep me in this. I don't want to do the PowerPoint, you guys. Come on, what other questions do you have? I go rogue all the time on my PowerPoints, because I really just truly want to be an asset to you and answer the questions that you need. Chris says, I just started on YouTube. Should my titles align with searchable keywords? I think you know the answer to this, Chris. You wouldn't ask if you didn't know the answer. Absolutely. And Google has free week keyword planner so that you can see what kinds of keyword people are searching for to find the kind of content or product that you're promoting on YouTube, right? Use the short tail keywords, but more importantly, and this is more important as you go into advertising land, long tail keywords. Because let's just say you are selling a new kind of soda, right? You are never at this stage, unless you are VC backed or PE backed, private equity backed, going to be able to own the word soda, because that word soda is probably like, I don't know, $50 a click, right? And you'd have to spend millions of dollars to get that, those eyeballs. But what you might be able to own is the best organic soda in Los Angeles, right? A lot longer, a lot more keywords strung together in a more efficient way. Volume in terms of eyeballs might not be there, but it's much, much more focused in terms of what that consumer is searching for. So that's how we use keywords for organic and paid. Class recommend to learn. I need 101, but learned so much with this. Well, I'm so glad that you asked, Diana. We actually happen to have a webinar series. Let me find it for you. And you can learn all about it. It's a 9-part series, I believe, that we recorded exactly for this purpose, to make sure that if you were not ready to jump in with an agency, but you wanted to learn as much as possible. Oops, host and, that's why my other thing didn't go up. So that is Elevate My Brand / Teach Me Marketing. So go ahead and check it out. I believe if you sign up for all the courses, you get a 50% discount. But we recorded literally hours and hours and hours of video content that speaks to the details around this. There's worksheets, so it actually is like a little mini MBA in marketing. So thank you for asking. Okay, any other questions? We got one more. Nope, that was the YouTube one. I answered that one live. All right, I guess I'll do 30 minutes of PowerPoint. Sure, why not?
We have about maybe 15, 20. So
15,
we can
20?
still mix it up. We can still mix it up with Q&A and PowerPoint. We'll leave a little bit of time at the end for our El Camino partners to close out.
All right, cool. Let me get the chat open so if there's any questions, and then I'm going to go full screen mode. All right, can y'all see my screen? Perfect. All right, this is about me. Y'all know this. These are some of the brands we've elevated. So we get this question a lot. Like I said, we've been doing this 15 years and over 250 brands, which I can't even believe. A lot of these brands you know, some of them you probably don't. But I mean, everything from like Black Angus to O2 Concepts, etc. You guys know we've got our fish together. Is there another question? Chris says, is there a place or tool or site that helps with building funnels for you? Excuse me. I would say, I think there's a site called ClickFunnels that does it. There's a lot of like clicky funnel places. If you just Google ClickFunnels or building funnels, there's a million of them out there. I would argue that it's almost more important for you to start doing it on your own so you understand and you can be thoughtful about what your specific audience wants. The best way to do that, honestly, Chris, is by surveying your market, right? Ask them what kind of content they want from you, in what channels, how frequent, things like that. So certainly agencies can build those. There's digital opportunities, but I think you got to dig in and do the work. It's like before you own the restaurant, you got to be chief dishwasher. You know what I mean? Like it's actually better for you to get in and do the grunt work and understand how these things actually function before you hire out for them. That's my belief, at least. All right. We did the FIO GID, figured out get it done. This was our agenda that I blew right through. And this is a little bit more in detail in terms of the difference between the two, right? So marketing is all about relationships, the give and take, content to the customer that is engaging and interesting to them that they really, really want. The transaction, the sales piece of that is that one thing, that providing compensation for the thing, right? It's satisfying their own self-interest. It's not about the relationship. Marketing is long-term. It's about awareness, visibility, developing that loyalty and interest over time. And it's very, very strategic. The reason that it's also so valuable is that it creates brand loyalty, right? So if someone's just going to looking to buy a pack of gum, the loyalty requirement there is a lot less, and the time it takes to make someone make a purchase decision is a lot less. But if you're selling a Ferrari or a new brand of car, you have to build up awareness, visibility, educate, and create that brand loyalty so that someone is informed enough to make a purchase decision within your category, which is again why it's so important. It always amazes me the short-term thought process that people have, like, I just want that sale. And I think, Kenny, you asked the question, like, how do you know when something's like not a good fit for you on the agency side? That's when we know that they're not a good fit for us, right? When they're like, I just want X number of sales. I'm like, this is a marketing agency. We're not a sales agency. So while it certainly does impact and drive to a sale, and should, otherwise we're not doing our job right. If you come to me and you're like, I need 5 million in sales, I need 10 million in sales, that's a little aggressive, and that's not where we exist as an agency. So just a little bit about us. Marketing, again, is that one to many, right? So I'm actually marketing to all of you right now. I just marketed all of you my marketing webinar, right? So that's an example of marketing one to many versus me having to call each one of you and really hard push and sell you to purchase that webinar, right? Marketing is about nurturing needs. Again, it's very touchy-feely, I know to say that, but it really is all about making people feel connected to you. There are so many brands in all of these categories right now. What is it that differentiates you from the Joe Schmo, Jane Schmo who's next to you selling the same friggin' thing? It's about the relationship. And honestly, that's again why we've been successful. I truly make connections with every single one of our clients. I even put consistent check-ins, one-on-ones with them every single month so that they feel connected to me as a founder, even if I'm not doing the day-to-day work, so that they have brand loyalty. That's it, really. And then sales satisfies that end need, of course. Marketing is like bringing people to the table. So marketing will bring people to the mall, and then sales is like what they buy within that mall, right? That makes sense. All right, so I want to make sure there's no other questions. All right, that's done. Cool. Whoop. All right. When you are looking to market and you're looking to figure out either both on the organic and paid side what works best for you, we have to do what we call A/B testing. A/B testing is a scientific method, like I said before, of literally testing this versus that. So don't get intimidated when someone says A/B testing. It's literally doing, let's call it three different things. You're testing the image, the message, and the targeting, right? So let's talk about social media, testing those three things. So let's say for a week, you test all these different images, and it doesn't have to just be A/B. It could be A, B, C, D, E. It could be 15, it could be 20 different tests if you really want the answer to it. So let's just say you wanted to test 5 different images. You run a $10 a day ad or a $20 a day ad for those 5 images for a week or 2 weeks. Again, even in a week's period of time, you can start to see the difference in the data, right? You'll see this particular image got 5 clicks. This one got 10 clicks. This one got 10 clicks also, so those are kind of on par. This one got 20 clicks. This one got 50 clicks. Clearly, this is the big winner in terms of your image, right? And then you flip the script again and you test and iterate through the next thing. So you have your image now, then you want to test your 5 different messages. So same thing, you test message 1, 2, message A, B, C, D, E, F, whatever you want to test, and the numbers won't lie. And you keep doing that until the clicks are optimized, as they say. I want to make sure A/B testing makes sense because it is really important, especially as you're trying to build an audience. You cannot really build an audience on social without spending some money on advertising. That has become even more challenging with all of the Apple privacy and blocking that's happening right now. So it's real hard, y'all. It's hard to be out there. It's hard out there to be a marketer. But A/B testing is really important. Okay, I got a question from Jordan. Is A/B testing as effective even if you don't use paid advertising? Yeah, so I would say you would even test it. You're testing it not in as scientific a way, but like I said, for example, for social media, let's say you're testing because you don't know what kind of content your audience specifically wants. But you in your mind create a content matrix, right? And you're like, week 1, I'm going to test really punchy copy, like copy that's like 3 or 4 words max, that's really like in your face, right? And you do that. And the next week you test like a little softer content and the imagery is like very feminine or what, depends on what your brand is. The numbers will still tell you that your audience either preferred this or they preferred this. So it is still kind of an A/B test, just in a more organic capacity. Does that make sense? Hope so. Cool. All right. So I know we're talking more about social next week. Do we want to put a pin in this?
Yeah,
let's see what else. Yeah, so this is all social and Google Ads, content marketing. Yeah, there's a lot to talk about here. I feel like I've already spat a lot of information to all of y'all, and that social is really where we need to kind of dig in and start from scratch. So Kenny, is that a good stopping place?
Well, what would you say for Google Ads, if you had, if you don't mind, like just a couple notes there? So you had a couple slides there. Do you mind elaborating a little bit on it? Because we'll move into social next week, but like this is a really important thing, and you had made mention of some things already, but I'd love to maybe do some closeout here on this topic. I think it'd be really helpful.
Absolutely. So, like I said, social is a very challenging category right now because of all the privacy stuff that's going on. And even so, what we're seeing is that brands are going wider. They're going way more omni-channel than deeper in one category. So that's really the big takeaway. Like, don't put all your eggs in one basket. You've got to test and try all of these things. And I think I said that in the very beginning. And Google Ads is a really, really great way to, again, cast a wide net and try and capture an audience that you can then nurture in through your product or service, right? It's totally visible. It's infinitely measurable, and you can target really specifically. And Google is a great platform. It takes you through it. Google is also always trying to sell you more ads. So they will make themselves available to you at any time to talk you through how to spend more money with them, right? So it's really important that Google Ads is one of the many channels that you test. And you have to also ensure that you're in it for the long haul. So one of the big pitfalls that we see with a lot of our brands is they're like, okay, we're going to do Google Ads. And they go really excited and they spend a bunch of money for like 1 or 2 or 3 months. And then they're like, ooh, nothing really happened. I think we're going to stop this, right? And they pull out, right? And they get really scared. We know that it is a minimum of a 6-month engagement for Google to use its algorithmic intelligence to optimize, right? So at first, it's just like a fishing net. It casts a super wide net. And that's when some of these agencies that are ads only, they're like, oh my God, look how amazing we are. Look, you spent all this money, but look at all the eyeballs. And you're like, yeah, but those are not doing anything. Like, they're not converting into anything, right? So that either means that you're driving people to the website or the landing pages on your website. Either the messaging is broken or the offering isn't set up properly to convert into whatever that first layer KPI is. So the first thing you're doing is driving people from the digital universe to your website or your landing page. But then it's what's on that page that should be engaging to that customer to click them, to have them click through that process, either to purchase something in real time, which would be a miracle. It's usually almost never a one-to-one, or to sign up so that you can continue to nurture and drip market to them over time. Because most people are frankly not ready to make a purchase decision when you want to sell them something, right? They are ready to make a purchase decision when they feel like it. That's just the truth of it. I wish we could control all of our consumers. It would be so lovely. I would be a billionaire if I could do that, but that's not the case. So for example, you say you spend a bunch of money and you drive people to your landing page. The landing page is optimized. On that landing page, you want to give them something. We call it an irresistible offer in order to entice them to sign up to your newsletter. Now, we never use the word newsletter. We want to make sure that it's something really clever and catchy, like ours is EM Biz or EM Buzz. We have 2 of them, right? Because people aren't stupid. They know if they're giving you their email address, they're going to get an email from you once a month, once every couple of weeks. So it's your job to entice them enough and to create enough of an irresistible offer to excite them enough to give you that email address, right? People are very, very smart. So for example, when you go to our page, I believe right now, I don't even know what my offer is right now. Sorry, I think it's 9 Easy Steps to Marketing, which is a drip campaign that's automated so that I don't have to worry about touching the new people that sign up every single week. So people come to the site. Actually, well, no, I can't do that because my cookie's already set up. Anyways, so there's basically an offer, whether that's a PDF, whether that's a discount. Usually when you go to a retail site, it's 10% off, $10 towards free shipping, a test of something, whatever that looks like. That's what they're doing to entice you to give you their information. but they're not silly, right? They know that there's a reason that they're doing that. So it's your job as the marketeer, as the brand, to give them something that's really, really, really exciting so that you can capture that email address. And I would argue that email addresses are like money in your pocket if they're used the right way. So that's kind of Google Ads 101. I know there's a couple of other things to talk about on the Google slides, but I did have a question. Ooh, which do you believe is more important, new clients or long-term customers? It is always more challenging and more expensive to find a new customer than to create a long-term relationship and continue to retain an existing customer. That especially is valuable on the agency model side, right? Where we have retainer models that recur month over month. The more I retain month over month and year over year, the bigger my agency gets, right? There is always what's called churn, which is when people come, they're not happy and they leave. But yes, I think it's super important to nurture those long-term relationships and to go after both, because there are different stages in your funnel, right? You really, really need to do both. Which areas do you think the competition is falling short? The competition falling short, again, I need a little more information around that, like competition in agency world, competition in, I'm not sure what the question is specifying. Can you add some color to that, please? Okay. So there's a couple different kinds of ads, and this is not all of it, but there is search, display, shopping, and video. There's technicals around all of it, but ultimately you kind of want to start with search and or display. You want to own your keywords in that category. For example, when, oh, this is a great example. So my husband's agency is called Baby Steps. There's a company called Baby Steps that's about baby wear, right? Or something baby product related. So in order for them to come up first, they had to own the words baby steps in a Google ad so that the ad came above the baby product and people could see exactly who they were, right? Instead of seeing them as a baby product. So it's a way to kind of clarify your message and positioning to ensure that people are finding you appropriately. Okay, so Anonymous says, which areas do you think the competition is falling short as it relates to agency and marketing? So as I said, there's a lot of agencies out there, and I won't mention their names because I'm a lady, but a lot of agencies have very, very high churn. Again, that means someone comes to you, they're really happy for a minute, and then they're unhappy because you haven't really delivered long-term value. So there's an example of an agency here in Los Angeles who has their clients spend a bunch of money on ads. And like I said, they're like, look at all these big numbers. And then the clients are like, yeah, well, either they're totally convinced because they don't know enough about holistic marketing to know that that's actually not delivering anything for them. Or they're like, well, yeah, our numbers are popping for like 2 or 3 months. And then it flatlines and there's still no revenue coming in from those ads. So I'm only spending money in this advertising category and it's not delivering. And that's when those kinds of clients churn. And I think I got to get a call about that agency probably once a week, those types of agencies about once a week. Again, it's because so many agencies right now are focused like only on social, only on content, only on ads, only on creative and branding. I think, and I believe very truly that the future of marketing is omnichannel and holistic, right? It has to be, again, that breadth, that scope, that wide scope in every category to create that visibility and awareness, because we are in such a noisy world right now. So thank you for that question. All right, I think that's all as it relates to Google. And I want to make sure we have a little bit extra time for questions, any additional questions, although I've answered quite a few.
You did. I mean, thank you. Masterclass today, by the way, just in terms of questions being answered, questions being asked, great job, guys, in the chat, asking these questions and engaging with Laurel. We have time just for a few more, and we're going to close it out with El Camino. We'll allow El Camino to close us out. But
I got one more question.
Yeah.
Nicole asks, I'm studying business, and the more I explore marketing, it calls my attention. I feel you, girl. I am a communications major. However, the plan is to attend Pepperdine University. Is there somehow I could explore marketing more in depth to see where I can best fit? Not sure if my question makes sense. Yeah, I think that Pepperdine has an MBA focused or marketing focused undergrad program. So just go and take all of the communications and marketing are very, very aligned, right? It's all kind of the same thing, whether it's about the nuance that you take with that and where you go with it, right? You go from comms into PR, you go from comms into agency, you go from comms into advertising. So I would just say take all the comms classes and all the marketing classes. But it really spoke to me, and I didn't figure it out until I was in graduate school. So I'm really excited that you already are excited about marketing. Happy to help. Go ahead.
Laura, what would you say, and this could be the, one of the final questions.
The coup de grace.
What would you say, how has your education, because a lot of our participants here are, on the journey with, at El Camino, finishing up, getting their education, experience. And, we're talking about business and owning your own, but how has your education impacted your business experience? Like, have you seen any crossover, or how it's been beneficial to have, the education, having done the education track, even though you are operating and running your own business? If so, how?
Well, I probably think I'm a lot smarter than I am because I have a lot of letters after my name. But no, it has significantly helped me. I think being a lawyer, just you learn to think differently. So in law school, there's this thing called the Socratic method, which means it's very much like, has everyone seen Legally Blonde? It's very much like Legally Blonde, where they call you out in the middle of the classroom. If you don't know the answer, they will kick you out, right? And so that skill set alone has taught me how to think on my feet in a way that I didn't have before. I mean, let's be honest, I came out of the womb like this. Like, I was always this very strong personality, but really figuring out how to think through in that unique way and be able to answer anything. My husband always says, like, he doesn't have really a title for it, but I'm kind of the queen of, like, I think I believe and I know, even if I don't. Like, I can answer something and it is so convincing that people are just like, oh, okay, I believe you. Go do what you thought. Like, that's, of course you're right. How could that possibly be wrong? I say it with so much conviction because of my background in education and the Socratic method. So in that way, I think it's been extremely helpful. It's also been helpful in reading contracts, negotiating, the legalese side of it has been helpful, and my legal bills are very low. So that's really helpful. Other than that, I also think, I am in a lot of rooms that are mostly pale, male, and stale. And to have that education to back me up makes me feel like I earned my seat in that room and I earned my seat at that table. And the truth is that I can probably run circles around all those guys. So, but I felt that I needed the education to kind of back me up with that. Do I think of it, I need it now? Maybe not, maybe, I don't know. I can't go back in time and say one way or the other, but I'll tell you, it really does make me feel confident in those really intense rooms.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Laurel. It's been phenomenal. I know we're coming towards the end. Just for everybody who's everyone who's here with us on chat, just as a reminder, we dropped a survey in the chat, so you can give us some feedback. Let us know how we did today, and you guys did phenomenal. So thank you guys for joining us and being with us. Don't forget, next week you can use the same link that you used to register for today. We're going to dive deeper into social media next week. Come ready with your questions. We touched the surface today, but there's so much more to connect and unpack around, how do I, marketing your business online via social media. That's like a topic in and of itself. So we've separated some time to do that. So just like today, you came ready to engage. Laurel, you did phenomenal. Thank you for being with us so much. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to, I believe this is Melissa on, Melissa, you are able to show, Professor Melissa, you're able to show camera. Yes, I got it right. There it is. So I'm going to hand it over. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Laurel. I appreciate all the information. You gave us a lot to chew on and quite a variety of topics. If everybody's looking for more information, we're going to join Laurel again next Tuesday. That's the 17th, a little earlier in the afternoon at 1 o'clock. So you can register, Penny said, using the same link to learn more. We're going to focus that conversation a little bit more and talk specifically on social media marketing that time. So join us for more on that. Sounds like there's several of you out there that want more information on this topic and feel inspired, which is great. Thanks so much for joining us today. And thank you, Laurel, for spending your time helping all of our students out, get them up to speed on these topics. We appreciate it.
Awesome, thank you. And reminder to everybody, I'm going to be sending an email out, with some gift cards. A couple of you going to win some gift cards. So look out for those emails. We'll announce it through email. And remember, don't forget to help us out with survey. Helps us just create an even stronger experience as we move forward and continue to create these opportunities for you guys and the community. So thank you again. We're going to end it there. I'm just going to say that. So thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Thank you, Laurel, for taking some time out. We will be back next week, next Tuesday, 1 o'clock. Looking forward to seeing everybody there. Thank you.